Well, RTE and the Fine Gael spin machine were in full swing this week to try and undermine the nurses' strike. They're trying to convince you that there's no money to pay the nurses, and that if the nurses win their pay claim, it would lead to pay claims by other workers, and there's no money to pay anyone. So there's nothing Fine Gael can do for workers who earn 30 grand a year. Although it's a bit rich from a Taoiseach on 184,000 a year to be telling a nurse on 30 grand a year that there's no money for her. But we can get the cash. It's simple. Just take it off rich people and tax exiles like Denis O'Brien. Whenever workers strike, the propaganda machine swings into action to try and undermine us. But we have to arm ourselves with answers to the lies and obfuscation that they try and put out there. So where would the money to pay the nurses come from? Well, there's 14.1 billion from Apple sitting in an escrow account. Well, Leo Varadkar says we can't use it because we're not sure which of it is ours. And he doesn't seem to be in a hurry to find out. We're paying thousands upon thousands to corporations to look after it for us as well. The account is run by Amundi, BlackRock Investment and Goldman Sachs. We're paying Goldman Sachs to hold on to 14.1 billion from Apple, which the EU has said it's okay for us to spend, but Leo refuses to spend it. And even if you agree with Leo that we can't get our hands on that money, what about the 3,000 tax exiles, people like Denis O'Brien, or billionaire Dermot Desmond, who's tax resident in Gibraltar? Denis O'Brien says he lives in Malta and so doesn't have to pay tax in Ireland. And yet he can spend 183 days of the year here without being regarded as tax resident. According to estimates, the man has between 3.9 billion and 6 billion in wealth, although it's hard to figure out exactly how much he has because he stashes it away in accounts all over the world and is very secretive about his wealth. Although that doesn't seem to work when working class people face the taxman. We can't hide money away. 1 in 8 of Ireland's billionaires is a tax exile. They generate billions off the backs of our work and then they squirrel it away in tax havens because they don't want to pay for our hospitals, for our schools. They don't want to pay to take homeless people off the streets because they don't give a damn. And even those that do declare their wealth do so benefiting from tax loopholes and exemptions. 83 high net worth individuals, each worth over 50 million, declared a taxable income the same as the average wage. We need to just close the loopholes now. End tax exile status. If Denis O'Brien refuses to cooperate, well, he's got printing presses, he's got newspapers, he's got newspaper office buildings. You threaten to seize his assets. You threaten to take his passport. If you don't stand up to these bullies, our health service in this country as a whole will be ruined. And then there's our corporate tax rate, one of the lowest in the world at 12.5%. Although the problem is, most of the corporations don't pay 12.5%. The effective tax rate in 2016 was only 4.5%. These people were able to use high-class lawyers and loopholes provided by the Irish government to avoid paying tax. And then Fine Gael, Leo Varadkar says, oh, there's no money for the nurses. There's no money because they're letting the money leave the country. Even if we made the corporations pay 9%, double the 4.5% they actually pay, we'd get 7 billion extra every single year. Imagine what 7 billion would do for the homeless, for people on social housing waiting lists. Or imagine what 7 billion a year could do for a public health service, or for nurses or workers' pay. But Leo says there's no money in Ireland. There's no money that he's willing to spend. There's no money that his rich friends are willing to part with. They make their money off the back of our blood, sweat and tears. And then they won't contribute to our hospitals because they don't care about the public health system. They go to the Beacon Hospital or the BlackRock Clinic where they're treated to the most expensive private care. The public health service is just something that they want to run down and sell off. People like Denis O'Brien, who got his hands on the state telecom infrastructure, waiting in the wings to snap it up for nothing. So it's not about lack of money, it's about political choices. Fine Gael and Fianna Fáil choose to penalise workers and reward banks, to penalise the nurses and reward tax exiles. Their policies create the housing crisis, create the health crisis, intentionally create these crises, and all to put money in the pockets of rich people. We need to support the nurses' strike. We need to call out the RTE and Fine Gael spin as nothing but propaganda and lies. And if the nurses march up to the Dáil, every single one of us should march with them.